Amy Donovan, a young Dutch girl, caught her father with a mistress in an Amsterdam restaurant, so she hatched a plan to teach them a lesson. It was a beautiful day in Amsterdam. Amy was passing the time between college classes at one of her favorite places in the world, a beautiful downtown restaurant. She was a freshman who despised college. She was only doing it because her parents insisted she major in medicine, despite the fact that her dream was to be a painter. She was passionate about fine arts and couldn't wait to open her first studio. She went to this restaurant whenever she wanted to skip school. After all, her parents lived on the other side of town, and she was certain she wouldn't run into them there. The young woman looked at her watch and realized it was time to go home. But as she stood up to pay for her coffee, a familiar voice in the back of the restaurant drew her attention. She quickly sat back in her chair and looked around, trying to find the source of the voice. It was then that she noticed a couple, a middle-aged man and a beautiful young woman at a more distant and hidden table. The man was very gallant with his date, loudly wooing and complimenting her. Amy was so taken aback by what she was witnessing that she couldn't move. She became increasingly nervous as she felt she was imagining things, but the situation was all too real. The middle-aged man was her father, and the young woman with him was clearly his mistress. Amy, who was about to leave, realized she couldn't because she would have to pass by her father to get to the exit, so she decided to stay and observe quietly. The woman with him was much younger than her mother, and she seemed to be about Amy's age. She had long hair and the body of someone who walked the world's most prestigious fashion runways. Amy sat at her table, trying to hear what the two of them were saying. The mistress let out a loud, unpleasant laugh and ordered the most expensive dish in the restaurant, accompanied by a wine that didn't appear to be cheap either. Amy gripped the table tightly, fighting the urge to call her mother right away and tell her what she was seeing. She had even dialed her mother's phone number on her cell phone, but she decided to wait and see what happened next. Her father and the beautiful woman left an hour after finishing their meal. Amy also saw her father passionately kissing the woman inside the car through the window. Her lover then slowly exited the car and turned the corner. Her father got in his car and drove away. Amy followed her without alerting the woman that she was being followed. She had no idea what she was doing or why she was doing it, but she knew she had to get to the bottom of the story. Fortunately, his lover didn't take long to arrive at her destination. The beautiful woman entered and remained inside the nearest beauty salon. Amy could see her putting on a uniform and soon starting to do a client's nails through the large windows of the establishment. Amy realized she was working there at this point, and a clever plan formed in her mind. She immediately dialed the beauty salon's phone number. The young woman said that she wanted her nails done and had received a recommendation from a friend to have them done by one of the manicurists at the salon. The student then described the appearance of a tall, beautiful woman and scheduled an appointment. At the same time, she found out that the woman's name was Jill. So within a few days, Amy went to have her nails done by her father's mistress. It is difficult to put into words the feelings of a daughter who discovers her father has betrayed her beloved mother. The girl had avoided meeting him inside the house all this time because looking at him reminded her of the embarrassing scene she had witnessed in the restaurant. Amy distanced herself from her father while still trying to figure out why he did what he did. Her parents were role models for her in every way, and she couldn't understand why he would want to ruin her family's happiness. Her heart sank at the thought that her mother might be extremely sad and disappointed by her father's betrayal because she loved her mother dearly and didn't want her father to hurt her. She loved her father as well, but she was furious with him, especially for all his pretensions and making up excuses for where he was that day. But Amy stuck to her plan. She would not give up until she discovered what kind of person Jill was. Only then would she decide whether or not to tell her mother and what to do next. Amy arrived at the beauty salon on time. They chatted about trivial stuff while Jill was doing the young woman's nails. Amy fixed her gaze on her, trying to figure out what her father saw in her. The woman was obviously stunning and charming. She was 23 years old, tall and with lush lips. Jill, however, was wearing fake jewelry and cheap perfume, implying that her father clearly did not lavish money on his mistress. It seemed strange to her because the man was wealthy and lavished lavish gifts on his wife and daughter. But Amy was extremely cautious. She didn't ask Jill about her personal life because she realized that it was better to make friends with her first to avoid creating suspicion. So they simply talked about the weather, fashion, and TV shows. Amy quickly became a regular, and for 3 months, she told Jill practically her entire life story. Amy eventually started talking about her parents, how much they loved each other, and how happy they were together. Jill, for her part, opened up to Amy and revealed that she had a married lover. Amy pretended to be shocked and immediately became alert, carefully listening to everything Jill said. According to her, the man was very nice and generous. He often gave her beautiful flowers and invited her to expensive restaurants. The man would tell Jill that he hadn't slept in the same bed with his wife in a long time, and that he is unable to divorce her because his daughter is still in college. But he promised Jill that he would file for divorce in 2 years when his daughter graduates and moves to another city, and then he would propose to her. It was so unpleasant to hear all this that Amy could hardly contain herself, and she struggled to resist the urge to express her true feelings. Instead, she told Jill she was happy for her and praised her man for making plans for the future. Jill was certain that Amy had become a new faithful and dependable friend to her. Amy realized then why her father had deceived her for so long. Jill was a naive young girl who had never been particularly interested in her studies. They were roughly the same age, and Amy truly felt sorry for Jill because she was head over heels in love with her father, and she knew he was fooling the innocent young girl. But Amy obviously felt more compassionate for her mother because she and her father had been married for 23 years. She loved her very much and would not put up with any more lies and deception. Amy's birthday was approaching, and she planned to throw a small party at her house, inviting only her closest friends and relatives. Of course, Jill was invited. She initially refused, saying that Amy didn't need to invite her manicurist just for the sake of politeness. Amy, on the other hand, persuaded her and lied, saying that her parents had wanted to meet their daughter's new friend for a long time. Amy placed pictures of her parents together in prominent places throughout the house on the day of the party. She wanted her parents' love for each other to be heard throughout the house. However, the girl did not stop there. Amy purposefully introduced Jill to her parents just as her father was assisting her mother with the candy for the parties, and the man tried not to show his nervousness, but his pale face gave it away. The man nearly collapsed when he was officially introduced to Jill. Finally, he couldn't control himself and left the kitchen, trying to conceal his nervousness and embarrassment. Amy looked into Jill's eyes without looking away and was surprised to see that her face was completely unconcerned, even indifferent. It was amazing how calm she remained in such a tense situation. Amy suspected she had already figured out his entire plan, but she wasn't about to let her father's mistress go through this so easily. She continued to talk in her ear about how much fun they all had on family vacations together, as well as how many gifts her father had given her mother. Amy soon gave her a tour of the large house, showing Jill pictures of the happy couple in each room and telling her about each one in detail. Jill's face became tense. Apparently, she was running out of patience. She sat the rest of the evening with a solemn expression on her face, completely out of place and clearly angry. Amy's father and Jill met at the party a few times but pretended not to notice each other. Jill couldn't take it any longer and began to fully understand Amy's entire scheme. At the same time, she realized how much of a liar he was. It didn't matter that the man said he would divorce his wife. Jill would always be his mistress because he clearly didn't want to leave that house and abandon his current wife. Jill hurried to place her glass of champagne on the table, mumbled something about feeling bad, and left. Amy never saw her again, not even when she returned months later to the salon where she worked. The manager said that she had fallen madly in love with a rich Italian and dropped everything to live with the man in the city of Milan, but that he had abandoned her and she was living in a garage as a favor since she no longer had a job and could not return to her country. And as for her cheating father, Amy waited until the party was over and had a frank talk with him. "I know everything, Dad. I've known for months, and I was hoping you'd finally tell Mom the truth. I love you, but this is unacceptable, and you should tell Mom all this as soon as possible before I do. I hope you'll come to your senses and make the right decision," the daughter said, holding herself together so she didn't cry. The next day, her father met with his wife, telling her the entire story and his regrettable betrayal. In the end, the woman filed for divorce on the spot, saying she had never felt so cheated in her entire life. Years later, she met another man who genuinely respected and loved the woman he had. Amy eventually decided to forgive her father, who hadn't forgotten the amazing woman he had lost. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and this other story that is currently appearing on your screen will probably move you as well. Have a good day, and see you in the next video.